2.3 WHTL in Whitehall, Wisconsin. It's 11 o'clock. And you know what that means on a Wednesday? That means we're going to have open house with Hanson Realty Group.
It's time for the open house on WHTL.
What are you, some kind of real estate agent?
You're joking, right? Tell me a joke about real estate. With the Hanson Real Estate Group. I never understood why people are so afraid to eat at an open house. I know. The open house starts right now.
And it does start right now. And I've got to welcome Josh Baecker into the studio. Hello, Josh.
Hey, Mark.
Oh, there you go. How are you?
Not too bad. How are you?
Not too bad on this beautiful summer day out in the heartland. It's warmer than they thought it was going to be.
It is. It's a nice change of pace from last week.
Yeah, well, we needed a couple of days, I think, to dry things out. So
Yep.
it's been really wet. And, a lot of people having water in their basements and everything else. Not a good thing, but it is summertime.
That it is.
Well, you're going to continue on a conversation we kind of started here maybe last week. Last week we were talking about, what happens with acceptance and then offers, and there is a difference between, acceptance and the offer being closed. And so now we're getting up to where it gets confusing, and that's the closing time. And, everybody thinks that's simple. You just go to the bank and sign the check, but it's not that simple.
No, it's not. And it's a part that gets overlooked a lot. Obviously, once we get an accepted offer, a lot of people's first question is, what do we do now? So as it gets close to closing, what do you do as closing approaches? So obviously, from when we get an accepted offer, everyone's working to get the contingency satisfied. Your home inspection, appraisal, financing, well and septic, any other inspections or contingencies that you have. The mortgage.
I have one question.
Yep.
What is a bump clause?
Well, a bump clause
'Cause
is
I know that you mentioned that here.
when you're selling a house to buy a house.
Okay.
You put in a bump clause, so the sale is contingent upon you selling your house. So you can accept offers. When you have a bump clause, the offers will be in the secondary position. Then they give you notice that they received a secondary offer, and you have 72 hours to remove that clause, or you get bumped down to secondary, and the secondary comes up to primary.
Ah, okay. All right. So, as they say, it ain't over till it's over.
Yep, especially that one takes a while too, obviously, because the houses will end up probably closing the same day. So it can get towards the end with that one, kind of like a mortgage. The mortgage is usually the last one you're waiting for, but the bump clause can wait till the end as well. So you kind of get focused on the contingencies and then kind of lose sight on what do you do with a few days before closing.
And that's why you need a professional to help walk you through the process, because it's always easier than it looks.
It is.
All right. So all the contingencies have been met. Everything is ready to go. Everything's satisfied. Then what?
So once we finally get the clear close, then the agents will coordinate with each other and with the buyers and sellers and the lender and the title company. Nowadays, the title company will do the closing. There were a few local banks around here that did their own, but now everybody's kind of just gone to having the title company close it for liability purposes. It's just easier that way.
So do you go to the bank and the people come there, or do you go to their office now?
We can do both. That's kind of the coordinating part. If people want to close at the bank, we
Okay.
can. Otherwise, we can close at the title company as well. So title companies are usually pretty good on if you want to close at the bank, like some people do. They'll just go there and close. So that just comes part of the coordinating thing. So we'll set up days and times. People work different schedules, so we just kind of coordinate with everybody on a closing date and time that works for everyone and that's open. And we used to be able to close like the next day or even same day. If you get approval for underwriting, you used to be able to just close. But now with the new lending rules, you have to have closing statements out to buyers a week before closing. So when we get the clear close, we'll look at scheduling a week from. Unless they want to show up and pick up the closing disclosure in person, then it can be 3 days. But typically it's 1 week because they'll email or mail the closing disclosure to the buyer.
So it's not as fast a process as it used to be.
Not hurry up and wait is more the name of the game.
Yeah, I remember, of course I'm old, but I remember back then you'd close and you could go to the bank at maybe the same day and get it all done if they had the paperwork done, but apparently you can't do that anymore.
Nope. Even when I first started, we were able to do that for a few years, and you'd wait and get the clear from underwriting, and then you'd go to close. But yeah, I'm trying to think. 4 or 5 years ago, I think they changed that, so we can't close that quick anymore.
Is that to give people a chance to reconsider before they sign on the dotted line? Is that why they did that? Is it like a truth in lending type thing?
I think it was more just making sure buyers have enough time to look through everything so that they're not feeling like we're pulling a fast one on them or anything. They have time to read through the whole closing disclosure, see exactly what everything costs. So,
All right, so now you have a closing date that's time and set. Then what?
so obviously the first thing as closing date nears is sellers start moving stuff out.
Right.
So we like to do a pre-closing walkthrough within 3 days prior to the closing day. We like to take buyers through and do a walkthrough. Not all of them do it, but we encourage them to do it to make sure everything is still in relatively the same condition as when they bought the house or offered on the house. The water heater doesn't crapped out, or there's no plumbing leaks that have sprung, anything like that, and to make sure nothing was damaged in the move out process. And we also like to have buyers and sellers contact the utility companies within that week before closing. I typically do it a few days. The sellers, just have them call and tell them we're closing. This is the day we're closing. And they're more or less, from the sellers, just going to want their new mailing address to send them the final bills. Otherwise, it's mostly on the buyer to call because they're going to want their information. So, and a lot of times they'll ask us to call as agents, but we don't have the information, your personal information that they want, and they want to talk to you personally. And so you can call them a few days ahead of time, a couple days, and just let them know when closing day is. But a lot of times nothing's going to happen until you call after closing and just let them know that it closed, so that nothing comes up and we have to delay closing a week for some reason. The walkthrough doesn't go well. And so they'll always want confirmation.
It's funny. You talk about not being able to call. I know there's a couple of accounts that I have that are generic to both my wife and I. And if she calls, even though she's got all the information, they still want to talk to me.
Yep.
So they've gotten really picky about that sort of thing, which I suppose makes sense because you don't want somebody canceling your utilities out of the blue just for fun. So I guess that does make sense. But that's one thing. I think probably a lot of people overlook the fact that they got to call the utility companies and the phone companies and everybody else.
Yep. And I mean, once you get to clear to close, people are excited, which is a good thing too. And you get excited, and it just kind of is one of those things that gets overlooked sometimes. So I always like to give everyone, and even on our, we have a property info sheet that we like to fill out that just lists the companies for the utilities, internet, electricity, water, sewer. So it is on a lot of things we include so that but we always like to give them the numbers and just remind them to call. And then, like I said, day of closing, they want you to call as soon as it closes so that they know they can change it over.
Now, do people usually do that 3-day prior walkthrough? If I remember, I don't think I did that when I bought my last property years and years ago.
We like to encourage it. I guess not everyone does it. A lot of people just say, I can't make it, or we don't want to do it. But most people do it. Just it's a simple thing. It's a quick, usually like 10 minutes, just walk through and make sure nothing's been damaged. There hasn't been a tree that fell on the house or anything. There's no water leaks,
Or they didn't rip the carpet out or something like that. So.
Yep.
Well, that's smart. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, especially if you're in the process of closing on a place. You want to make sure that it's what you thought it was when you bought it. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Maybe that's something most people wouldn't think about. So, having a realtor guide you through that's kind of an important deal.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got some properties you want to talk about, and these look like some pretty good. Wow, there's another big parcel of land, or is that the one that sold?
That's that Black River property.
Yeah.
That is one that we sold at auction here last Friday. So it was that 187 acres with one big shed and another shed, 2 homes on it. So we actually we brought a high bid of $1,090,000.
Wow.
As a high bid on that property.
For that large a property, that's a good deal.
It is.
Because, I mean, you could convert that into just about anything, I would think, out there. And that house, I saw pictures of it online. That house was pretty cool. It was.
It's a A-frame that sits on top of a hill, kind of overlooking the Black River. It is a great spot. It's a great property, though there's a lot of timber value there, whether you want to log it for some income or just wildlife, deer hunt. I know there's a couple bear over there, too, for a lot of people are getting into bear hunting nowadays. So there's just a lot of opportunities. There are some trails and just nice, mature oak trees, white oak, for bringing in your deer and turkeys. So
I'm not surprised that it sold that fast, at auction, because you don't get parcels that big very often anymore around here. You really don't.
Nope, and that's what we had a few questions from people. Are you splitting it up? Is it actually just one piece? So yeah, some people were surprised it just sold as one. That's what the seller wanted to do, and it's just easier because not all counties. It depends which county you're in on how you can break stuff up.
Okay,
So,
I have one question because that was sold online. It was an online auction.
it was live and online. It was simulcast.
Simulcast. What determines whether a property is just listed or whether it's sold online as an auction? Is there a criteria that you use, or is that up to the seller?
Well, it's always ultimately up to the seller, but a lot of times they lean on our advice. So it just a lot of times depends on the situation the sellers are in. Some people just want to sell it because when we sell at auction, it's as is. No contingencies. The price is the price. You don't have to worry about fixing this or anything. So some people that want to just sell and be done like to go that route. Now, you're looking to sell a house, your starter home, to buy your forever home. A lot of times those properties you don't want to sell at auction. Just you want to list it conventionally. Right. It just goes better that way.
That makes sense. Now, there's another property here that you're talking about that's 69.2 acres. And that's out by Fountain City on the ridge. That looks like a pretty nice location as well.
That is a pretty beautiful property. It's a bluff country property. Lots of elevation change up and down, valleys, hills. So there's some nice timber in the bottoms as well. It's all woodland. I have had a few calls because it's got easement access from the highway. So it is not cropland. It is just rec land. And there's some shadow hunters on it as well. He's got heaters in there with LP tanks and chairs that will stay with them as well.
Now, is that property suitable, or if you wanted to build a house up on top of the ridge, you could do it?
No, there's no room
access?
no room to build up there.
Okay. But boy, what a great hunting parcel, I would think.
Yep. You could probably put like a little shed or a little living quarters up if you want to do, but as far as building a house, there's not enough room for that.
Not suitable for that. And another property that's back on the market in Pigeon Falls.
Yep, Jackie just had our property at 39987 Highway 53 in Pigeon Falls come back on the market. Looks like a very nice property for $195,900. It's a 2-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. So a lot of people like those full 2-bath homes.
Oh, yeah, and Pigeon Falls is a nice place. I mean, that's a great place to live, raise your kids, and
yep.
You don't see that kind of a value up in Pigeon Falls very often. So, one thing you were talking about before we went on the air, and it seems like every week we talk about this, the lack of homes that are actually on the market. It really is a buyer's market today. Or a seller's market.
I would say it's more of a seller's market, just because prices are holding strong. There's not a lot on the market. So when the market gets flooded, there's listings everywhere. Prices are usually going down because there's a lot of choices out there for people. So it's more of a seller's market now than a buyer's market.
So if you've got a property that you want to move, now's a good time to do it.
It is a good time.
Because you don't see many on the market, and they usually go pretty quickly.
Everything has been going pretty quick, so... people think that high interest rates have drive the market down. It's really held strong. So buyers are still out there buying. There's just not a lot for them to choose from. So if they want to move or buy a house in a certain area, they got to act on it, and usually act on it pretty quick because there's other people in the same boat.
Well, now's a good time to do it. If people want to list a property or look at a property, what's the best way to contact you at HRE Group?
You can call or text my cell phone at 715-533-4114, or you can reach out to my email, josh@hregroup.com.
All right. Make sure you check out their website, too, hregroup.com. There's a lot of good listings on there.
There is.
Go to their Facebook page as well. You can keep up to date with everything that's happening in real estate around the area.
Yep.
Josh, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. Josh Baecker with Hanson Realty Group. Who's up next week? Do you know?
Jamie, I believe.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have Jamie in the studio next week. Have a good day, and thanks for coming in, Josh.
Thanks, Mark.
All right. Open house here on WHTL with Hanson Realty Group.